Imen was the first elf to awaken on the shores of Lake Quivernain and is one of the three elven ancestors. Imen is also known as Ilkandata, the father of Alkundi. Fatherless, Imen was created by Aluvida and slept under the green grass on the shores of Lake Quivernain, only to awaken at the time of his conception. Imen was the first elf to awaken in the world, followed by Tada and Enel, all male elves who are collectively known as the elven ancestors. The elven words for number: 1, Min, 2, Ada, 3, Ada, 3, Ada, and 3, Ada. The number words 1, Min, 2, Ada, and 3, Nel, in the Elvish language are derived from their names. The first thing the ancestors saw in the world was the stars, and the second was their sleeping mates. Marveling at the beauty of their mates, they began to experiment with words to express their emotions and eagerly awakened their mates. Imen's mate is called Imen. The elven ancestor and his mate roamed around in search of other elves. At first, they found 6 elven couples in a valley, and Imen, claiming that he was the oldest elf and had first choice, took the group as his companions. However, on their journey, Tada and Enel encounter more and more elves, and Imen has the fewest followers in comparison. Jealous of this, Imen decided not to choose first, but last. So, when it was Imen's turn to choose a companion again, he gave it to Tada and Enel both times, expecting to find more elves. However, they never encountered another elf after that, and Imen's group eventually numbered only 14. This pack was known as the Minya, the ancestors of the later Vanya. Ingwi is a descendant of Imen. When the elves debated whether or not they should move to Amen, Ingwi, Fenway, and Elwi, who visited Amen as emissaries, urged their people to move westward, which Imen, Tartar, and Enel resented, seeing it as the younger generation of elves rebelling against the authority of their elders. In another version of the story, Imen, Tartar, and Elnair also visit Amen, and Imen and Tartar intend to move west, but they believe that as long as any of their people remained in Quivernain, so should they themselves. In any case, the 3 elven ancestors ended up not taking part in the Great Journey, and they became Avari elves. Tada, the second elf to awaken on the shores of Lake Quivernain, is one of the 3 elven ancestors. Like Emin, Tada is fatherless and motherless. He was created by Aluvida and slept under the green grass on the shores of Lake Quivernain until he awoke at the right moment of conception. Tada's mate was called Tadi. Emin took the first 6 elven couples he found as his companions, Tada gained the next 9 pairs he found, and Enel found 12. Seeing that Tada and Enel had more followers, Emin became jealous. After that, they found 18 more pairs of elves and 24 more pairs of elves in quick succession, and Emin gave up these companions to Tada and Enel, hoping to meet more elves the next time, but he did not get what he wanted. Tada's group totaled 56 and were known as the Tatya, the ancestors of the later Noldor. Fenway was a descendant of the Tartar. In another version of the story, Tada, Emin, and Enel also traveled to the Amen continent. Tada's heart was set on the wisdom and creations of Vila, and he and Emin intended to move westward, but felt that as long as any of their people remained in Quivernain, they themselves should stay as well. In the end, none of the 3 elven ancestors took part in the Great Journey, and together they became Avari elves. Enel was the 3rd elf to awaken on the shores of Lake Quivernain, and he was one of the 3 elven ancestors. Enel's mate is called Eneli. Like the other 2 ancestors, Enel and his mate roamed the lands in search of other elves. Enel's pack totaled 74, the largest of the 3 elven ancestors' packs. It was known as the Nelja clan, and was the ancestor of the later Telerii. Elwi was a descendant of Enel. Favoring the unexplored earth, free-spirited flora, and fauna of the Middle Continent more than the other elves, Elwi proposed that all the elves vote to move westward or not, and chose to stay in Quivernain with the other 2 ancestors, accompanying the clansmen who voted no. In the end, none of the 3 elven ancestors took part in the Great Journey and became Avari elves. Imini, Tadi, and Eneli, the 3 female elves, were among the first to awaken on the shores of Lake Quivernain, awakened by their husbands Imen, Tada, and Enel, respectively. Created by Olivida, these three founding female elves were fatherless and motherless, and slept in pairs with their husbands on the shores of Lake Quivianen until they awoke at the right moment of conception. Emin was the first of all the elves to awaken, followed by the other two male elves, Tada and Enel. The waking male elves saw the beauty of their respective mates and eagerly awakened them. So it was their husbands that Imini, Tadi, and Eneli first saw in the world, and they loved their husbands more than they loved anything in Arda. Thereafter, they searched together for other awakened spirits, and eventually Emin and Emin found 12 companions, collectively known as the Minya, who were the ancestors of the Vanya, and Tadi followed Tada in her search for other awakened spirits, and they eventually found 54 companions, collectively known as the Tatya, who were the ancestors of the Noldor. And Eneli followed Enel in her search for other awakened spirits, and the two eventually found 72 companions, collectively known as the Nelja, who were the ancestors of the Teleri. Upon discovering the awakened elves, Alami taught the art of making lambeth to Imini, Tadi, wife of Tartar, and Eneli, wife of Enel, who were the first elves to learn the art. All three of these women and their husbands did not join the great journey, choosing to become Avari elves. Morway and Nurway are one of the chiefs of the elves of Avari, and they and their people love the earth of the Middle Continent more than the rumors about the twin sacred trees. When Vila summoned the elves to Variniar, they led their kin to refuse the call. From then on, these elves who refused the call became known as the Avari, meaning reluctant. Little is known of the lives of Morway and Nurway. All that is known is that they lived with their people in the farthest mountains from Quivianen. Thus, when Oromi first came to the mid-continent, they were not seen. They knew very little about Vila, and saw him as a shadow and a rumor. In addition, they were deceived by Morgoth and saw Alami as a demon. All of this ignorance and misunderstanding, as well as their love for the vast lands of the Middle Continent, ultimately led Morway and Nurway to lead their people in rejecting the call. So they became Avari elves and disappeared from history,